Welcome to the Positive Spot with Dustin Lawrence, your daily dose of positivity. Join us Monday through Friday as we celebrate the positive in life, people, places, and events. Daily news, conversation with special guests, personal development tips, and more delivered directly to you. What we think about, we bring about. So why not fill your mind daily with positive thoughts and people at the Positive Spot?
Why, yes. That's right, my friends. Threw some extra yeses on there today. We're very excited for everyone to be a part of this podcast. Welcome to the Positive Spot podcast. My name is Dustin Lawrence, and I am your grateful host. And it's Christmas Day here because we have a very special guest that I just had an incredible conversation, and we shared some unbelievable life lessons. You see, Tanya, our guest, and I'm going to let her do her own induction shortly, but Tanya is a master at making her mess her message, right? We've discussed that here. That's one of the things that we focus on at the Positive Spot, making your mess your message, never quitting, helping others. Tanya's got all this, right? And she's been challenged for some incredible challenges. Some of them were even put in front for the whole world to see. So this is a very special podcast we have today, because it's not a matter of if life's going to throw you a curveball and if life's going to get hard. It's when. And Tanya shares with us today how to get ready for that and how to respond to it. Man, we have some incredible gifts and special life lessons lined up for you today. So I'm going to quit talking. We're going to jump right to the meat of the podcast today, the special conversation Tanya and I just had. And don't worry, my friends, we share some links to websites and whatnot. You can follow the podcast at PositiveSpotShow.com. We're going to share the links to Tanya's website and all those goodies there. So just plug in, relax. If you're out walking, if you're on your bike, if you're at the gym working out, listening to this podcast, perhaps driving home, because this is a podcast you're going to remember. So without further ado, let's jump into the meat and bones of this special Positive Spot podcast.
All right, my friends, what a special day. What a great day to be alive. As I said at the intro of this podcast, we have a very, very special guest today. Our guest is not only an author, a speaker, a life coach, an all-around badass, and you know, I don't cuss much. That's about as bad as we get there, but someone that has really learned how to overcome obstacles. And you know what we say here at the Positive Spot: make your mess your message. Don't quit. And this person displays those two attributes to a T, and that's why I'm so excited and so grateful. Right? Excitement and grateful, something we wrap around everything, to bring out our very special guest today, Tanya Brown. And Tanya, I know you're there with us, my friend.
I am. I'm here, and I'm ready to share it with everybody that's listening today.
All right. There's no doubt your message is going to reach millions. I love it. I love it. Well,
Good.
Tanya, why don't you jump in, share us a bit about yourself, and I'm going to be like everyone else, taking notes, because there's lots of goodies to come, my friends.
No, thank you. So, well, first of all, I'm the youngest sister of the late Nicole Brown Simpson, who was murdered in 1994. And at that time, I was 24 years old. And I'm 46 now, and we're going on 22 years. We're actually in our 23rd year. And, you know, you can only imagine the chaos that my family endured during that time. But what people don't know is that my tragedy actually started even before Nicole's death. And in high school, I had a very six friends of mine in high school. And, you know, back then, when you are in high school, back in the 80s, we didn't have first responders. So basically what a teenager does is that you stuff your emotions and you carry on. It is what it is. I guess that's kind of how I lived my cards out. And but I had to do that 6 times in high school, and then 2 years after high school, my best friend Harissa was killed in a hit-and-run accident. And that is, looking back and using my professional education as well as just my life experience, I definitely was clinically depressed. And the reason why I'm sharing this with people is because not to share pity, not to say feel sorry for me. I mean, we all have losses. We all have adversities. We all have messes, right? But the reason why I share it is because that was the beginning of my healing, even though I really wasn't ready yet. But the reason why I became so clinically depressed is because I never felt the stress, the grief, the pain, the loss of my friends when I was in high school. So it was slowly seeping out. And I carried that stress and that depression with me for many years, and that turned into an overeating disorder. And, thankfully, in today's world, we have an epidemic with prescription drug overdoses and heroin overdoses, and, I mean, it's a mess. And thankfully, mine was just food. But I really had to overcome, a different mindset. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, but I wasn't ready to change yet. So I carried on with that same behavior, and I went to UC San Diego, and I fainted my first day of college. And it was like one thing after another, and it really stemmed from me not knowing how to cope with life. I just thought, okay, well, this is life. I guess I can do it all. Little did I know that I was going to faint my very first day of school. But that is during my days at UCSD. That's when I had my first suicidal thought. And it all stemmed from parents, a mom and a dad, sharing about the story about a girl, their daughter, who jumped off the Coronado Bridge here in San Diego. And that is when my life changed. That's when I went, oh, my God, this is real. People actually do this. I just thought these were just random thoughts. And, at that time I'm 22. To me, this is just textbook stuff. But not realizing that it was actually happening to me, I didn't know how to communicate that with myself or even, a professional or my parents. And so I just kind of sat and realized that, holy cow, this is very real. And I want to paint this picture because this was my life-altering moment. It was Christmas Eve, 1993. Or 1992, and I'm sitting in my living room. My roommates are gone. I'm in Del Mar. My roommates are gone for Christmas, and I have the shutters closed. I had the fireplace on. I'm watching Casablanca, and I have a glass of wine in my hand, and it's 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, let me ask you, Dustin, and to all your listeners, is that a healthy 22-year-old? That's not healthy. And at that very moment, in my silence, the phone rings. And it was my sister Nicole. And this is what Nicole said to me. She said, Mama's telling me you're having a really hard time adjusting to school down there. And I said, Nick, I don't know why, operative word, why. I don't know why I can't do it. I don't know why this is happening to me. The why word kept coming in. And she goes, you know what? Change that. I don't want you to use the why anymore. She says, it's very judgmental. And she says, I want you to write this quote down. Delete the need to understand everything. We don't need to understand everything. Some things just are. Isn't that simple? It's so simple.
And the way you describe that, you can tell that it's just engraved in your mind, such a detailed picture you painted. Wow. Many
years later, 20-something years later, and I'm still sharing that quote with people because it's common sense. But we have this little hamster in our head, and I've actually named mine. It's Fizzy. And Fizzy the hamster sometimes doesn't shut up. But I really want to encourage people that it's in the silence that healing happens. And as long as that little hamster is on the little running wheel, healing can't happen. And my hamster didn't stop for a really, really long time. And I just was going into a darker place. And so anyways, I finally, I made the life change of leaving UC San Diego, and then Nicole got killed. So you can only imagine that situation. We had to share it with the entire world. And so not only did we have to share it with the entire world, and I mean world, not just here in the States, globally. And And I mean, I'm grateful for all the support that we received, absolutely. But the one thing that worked against me, and I can't speak for my family, one thing that worked against me is that I wasn't able to grieve in a healthy way. Because, I just kind of was practicing the same habits that I created in high school. I'm just going to plow through. I'm just going to go on. This is life. Loss happens. Death happens. I mean, there was a lot of chaos and turmoil, of course, but I didn't grieve. I never really felt and what was happening. And, and there was so much happening, and people in the public only saw, a minutia of that. There were extreme family dynamics going on. This is not a stranger who did this to my family. This is somebody who I've known since I was 7 years old. And
Wow.
I want people to understand that. So that made it even more challenging, because for almost a year and a half, I didn't believe he did it. Because I'm like, my God, how can somebody that you've known since you were 7 years old do something like this, yet claim to love that person? I just could not wrap my brain around it. And, but time goes on, and you kind of, you play the cards that you were dealt, and we turned a real big tragedy into something really positive. But it wasn't something that my family and I decided to do on our own. Initially, we were wanting to start a foundation for pediatric AIDS because Nicole loved children. And it was at the time, it was still in the early 90s, AIDS was still fairly new. And all of a sudden, her abuse became admissible in court. And that's when we just got an influx of letters, and thousands of letters. Like, the mailman had to deliver mail in these big mail bags. It was crazy.
Wow.
And all of them were from family members affected by domestic violence. So it wasn't our decision to do it. It was, we were listening to other people and their stories, and the children, and the forgiveness that were written in these letters. My dad killed my mom, and vice versa, but yet I forgive them. The beauty behind, but yet the pain behind these letters is what really, really motivated us. Like, man, what is this thing called domestic violence? We didn't even hear mom and dad fight or bicker or nothing. And if they did, they never did it in front of the kids. So it was very foreign to us, very foreign. But, again, we chose to do something with the tragedy. We got out of our own way. And we chose to listen to the public, and that's how the foundation was started. And sadly, we shut it down, I think, maybe like 5 years ago, just direction and, goals change and things like that. So Denise decided to close the foundation, but we are still huge domestic violence advocates. And
Nice.
But that happened, in 1994. We had helicopters flying over our house 24 hours a day, death threats every day. We had security guards. For us to have any conversation, we had to go down to the beach to have that, because people were honing in on private conversations, satellites that were parked across the street. So it was really crazy.
It's real. It seems surreal, the whole environment.
Very.
Tanya, you said it was you guys didn't choose it. You listened to others.
Yes.
And when you're involved in listening and helping people, the ego's gone. It wasn't about what you and your family wanted. What a great point. I just highlighted that in my notes, everyone. I just wanted everyone to get that. That's so huge. You listened to others.
I appreciate you saying that. Again, we got out of our own way, and we were saying, my God, okay, Nicole people are listening to her. We're listening, and we're reading these letters, and that's how change really started happening. And that's when Denise started changing laws and traveling to D.C. She did like the legislation part. I did just local stuff, and thank God, because I would never have her strength. I do in other areas, but man, that girl gets things done.
Nice.
But again, a lot of good stuff has come out of tragedy, but we chose not to be the victim. We chose to do something good from it. And people, everybody, not just me, not just our little sad story, everybody, no matter what adversity that you're going through, everyone has the choice to turn it around and see the light and make something of it and learn from it and change the world from it. And I always say this to people. It's like, we all have a story. Each and every, my story is no different than anybody else's. We've all lost. We've all had deaths. We've all had our own bouts of tragedy. Mine is no different other than it was publicized. But I always share this with people. Everybody has a story, and you're doing a disservice to other people if you don't share it.
Absolutely.
Because you never know who needs to hear your story. And that's kind of where I personally, I got out of my own way, and I started sharing my story from all the tragedies that I had gone through. I had a breakdown 10 years after Nicole's murder. And that breakdown forced me into drinking red wine, popping Klonopin, which is a major tranquilizer. I was not taking them as prescribed. And the trigger was the cancellation of my wedding 4 days before.
Wow.
So it wasn't, I didn't cancel, he canceled. And so, see, I really want your listeners to understand that we need to face our chaos as we are going through it, walk through that tornado of chaos. If you walk around it, above it, below it, you never know when it's going to catch up with you. But if you walk through it and really sit in it and talk about it and really process it and feel it, just feel it, no matter how scary and dark it is, most likely it's not going to bite you in the butt when you have a trigger. And if you actually, let me take that back, if you walk through it, you're going to know how to cope with the trigger. So, with me, going back to UCSD, I didn't have any life skills. I didn't have any coping skills. So when Dustin, the first chapter of my book is called "And the Oscar Goes To," because it was very dramatic. I was emotional. I was crazy. I was out of my mind. I was screaming, and I was flipping out. October 9th, 2004, and I yelled at my dad. I almost hit my dad. I screamed. I called Denise horrific names. We didn't even talk for an entire year, and we lived together.
Wow.
And so I disengaged from the living room where this whole thing happened, and she stopped me in my tracks. And she goes, and I'm not going to say all the expletives that she shared with me that day, but she grabbed my shoulders and she said, "You need coping skills." I'm like, what the heck are those? Like my language, what are coping skills? And keep in mind, Denise left the home. I'm 12 years younger than Denise. She is worldly. I was very sheltered. And I said, "I don't know what those are." And she's like, "Go find them somewhere." I mean, it was funny looking back on all of it.
Right.
But I went to my room, and right now I'm sitting on my couch looking at the piece of furniture that was in my room at that time, and on the left side of the cabinet were my pills, and the right side of the cabinet was my wine. And I said, "I'm done." And I poured the bottle of Klonopin in my left hand, grabbed the bottle of red wine in the other, and I was going to call it a day. I was tired. I was fed up. I was exhausted. I'd gone through enough. I didn't need one more loss. My life sucked. And you know what? It's people who, even though my life sucked emotionally and with pain, it was still so beautiful. That's what was so weird about this whole experience. Like, I'm a very blessed girl. Had the best family. Chaotic, dysfunctional as every other. But,
right.
I mean, my daddy worked hard to put us in a great community where I grew up in and in a beautiful area of Southern California. I mean, I'm blessed beyond belief. Yet, I couldn't find any joy at that very moment. And people who attempt a suicide, think about it, or just anything dealing with any of that, it's our desperate call. It's, people call it a selfish act, but it's not. And unless you've really been there, it's really hard for me to explain it. You're only thinking about yourself, but you are in such a dark place that I can't even call it selfish. It's like you've exhausted every outlet of support, and you just don't know what to do anymore, and you're tired, and it just consumes you. I mean, it's really a really hard thing for me to describe. But that's kind of like the best way that I know how. And at that moment, my sister Dominique came in my room and she stopped me. And I still took 4 Klonopin, but I said, Dominique, I said, get me the hell out of here before I hurt myself or someone around me. And Dustin, it was at that moment that I realized that I'm here for a higher good because I should not be here. And if I did survive all of that, taking that pill, taking all those pills, I mean, there were like 25 pills in there. And if I would have taken all of them and survived, who knows what I would be like today if I survived. And she took me up to my girlfriend's mom's house, and the next morning she calls me up, and Dominique calls me up and says, are you ready? Because the local hospital has a bed for you. And I said, let's go. And I willfully went because I knew I snapped because I have joy in my heart. I have love in my heart. I have compassion, gratitude. I love life. And I knew that something just wasn't right. But thank goodness that I got the help, and I didn't do it alone. And, you know, so many people traveling through all kinds of adversity. You know, again, it could be a divorce. It could be a move. It could be a loss of a cat or whatever. We cannot measure other people's adversity. Pain is immeasurable. What's painful to me may not be painful to you and vice versa. So I really want your listeners to understand that just because I tried to take my own life and Nicole was murdered and we had to share it with the world makes my pain no different than my next door neighbor who's going through a divorce. It's all the same. And so anyways, I was in there for 10 days and oceanfront room, still mad at holy hell why I was there. Did not know why I was there, but I knew I needed to be there. People pay millions of dollars for a view that I had, but yet I was so angry. But it wasn't until day 4 that I chose to sit on the edge of my bed, and I looked out into the ocean and I said, God, give me a sign that I need to be here. I don't want to be here, but I need a sign that I need to be here. And immediately something came over me. But see, I had to get out of my own way for me to beg for help. Because if I wouldn't have asked for the help, and for me to ask to be able to see the situation that I'm in, who knows? Again, who knows how open I would have been to receiving all the help that I received in the hospital. So, yeah, I sat there on the edge of my bed, and immediately I saw the little dog down below play in the backyard. I saw the waves crash. I saw the wind blow. I saw the butterfly come to my window. I was like, holy guacamole, I need to be here.
Became a Disney movie, didn't it, real quick?
It totally did. Everything was like, you know, Bluebird singing on my shoulder. And it was such a profound moment and experience. But again, healing cannot begin until you get out of your own way, accept where you are at, and surrender to the situation that you're in. Healing cannot begin until you unleash all of that. You have to be completely open and available to healing, because healing just doesn't happen. You have to really welcome it and say, I'm really sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I need to get help, no matter what kind of help that may be. And but anyways, I did the work. I didn't push this stuff under my bed hoping it would seep in through osmosis. Like I went to every group. I came back to my room. I journaled like crazy. I processed all the worksheets. I processed, you know, the group topic that was being discussed. I did the work. So when I coach people and when I speak on overcoming adversity, Dustin, I come from integrity because I did the work, and I know how hard it is. And I'm blessed to have gone through that, because after that experience, I sat on this life story until 2012. So from 2004 to 2012, I sat on this story, on my personal story. I figure, because again, we all have life experiences, and we figure, oh, well, it's just something I've gone through, no big deal. Until Facebook started getting more active back in 2011, and, you know, people, the whole energy of it was being more active. And on there I was seeing bullying, depression, anxiety, suicides. I mean, my gosh, all this stuff. And I'm saying to myself, okay, I'm almost there, but I'm not there yet. I want to share it, but I'm not there yet. I mean, you got to be ready to share with the world that you try to take your own life. You got to be ready for it. And because you don't know, you don't know if you're going to be judged, because mental illness is a total stigma. I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety. And you don't know how it's going to affect your professional life, your personal life. So I wasn't ready to get out of my own way when it came to this yet. And at that time in 2012, I was in graduate school because this whole situation, again, I turned something awful, something chaotic, into something good. I went back to school, got my bachelor's in psychology, and then returned and got my graduate degree in counseling psychology. So I've turned a real bad situation into something where now I not only have the life experience, but I also have the educational experience to really help people move forward in a real personal way, but also in a real professional way. And so, but in 2012, I was going through graduate school. I was caring for my dad. We were primary caregivers for my dad. He had Alzheimer's, and he passed 2 years ago. And my mom had stage 3C breast cancer, and my sisters were running her to radiation and chemo. And then here I am taking care of my dad and my crazy dog who's biting me all the time because he doesn't have enough attention. So it was just chaos up until 2 years ago. Chaos at the Brown house. And until one day I'm looking on, I'm doing my paper, my exit paper, or a term paper, and I get an email from a fellow named William Croyle. And William said, just casually, have you ever thought about sharing your story? William. And I went, okay, that's odd, because I'm kind of thinking about it, but I'm not quite there yet. And so the timing was just perfect, and I said yes. I always wanted to transcribe my journal entries when I was in the hospital. And he goes, no, your story is much bigger than that. Okay, again, we all think we have stories that they are just our own stories, but we don't know the impact that it can have on society until somebody else helps you see that. And William was my guy to help me see that. And so we just started talking, and then we just started writing, and he started writing. He was interviewing me. He came out here and became part of my life and my family's life for a while, to get the feel of the story. He really immersed himself in the story in my life. And in 2013, my book was published, Finding Peace Amid the Chaos, My Escape from Depression and Suicide. So I am a total advocate on mental health issues, on people who need some accountability and some, like a kick in the pants to overcome whatever it is that they're going through. I mean, believe me, I got kicked in the pants by my occupational therapist, Carol, and it got me somewhere. It got me to health, joy, and happiness. But I didn't get here to where I am today with somebody coddling me. I mean, Carol really was my angel who really gave me the tools. I helped myself. See, I help people help themselves. I can't help people. I can help them help themselves. So I can give them the tools like Carol did for me, and you just hold them accountable and hope that they make these changes and use these tools. And so from that on, I do corporate leadership conferences, because we all have adversity. We're trying to balance life, work, and play. How do you do that? Caregiver stress management is a huge thing that I'm advocating for and that I coach on, because what did I need to do to prevent myself going in the ground before my dad? Because caregiver burnout is very real, and elder abuse is very real. And if you don't put your oxygen mask on first in life, you can do a lot of harm to other people around you. And so you gotta learn the coping skills and the life skills to really get through messy times. Not tragic. It doesn't even need to be tragic. It's just stressful times. And if we don't keep putting that oxygen mask on ourselves first on a daily basis, stress catches up with us. and it will eat us alive, and next thing you know, you're exploding like I did in 2004. And so, life's gone on. I speak. I coach people on how to overcome adversity or how to bounce back from it, how to travel through the chaos. I walk people through my tools that I've offered in my book. And Dustin, you and I, we were talking about, sad stories. Many people have sad stories, and we all have those sad stories on our bookshelves. But the thing that I wanted my book to be to stand out from is that I wanted to give people solutions, because I believe we are not given solutions in life. How do I get through X trying to reach point Y? How do I get through, caring for my loved one and be happy at the same time? And so I really wanted to focus in on little things that they can do every day. And I came up with 12 that are in the back of my book, but for the sake of time, along with my media coach, we created the Tanya formula. And it's so simple. It's so simple. And if people would just tap into one of these 5 every single day, guaranteed life will not be easy, but it'll be easier. And going through your mess will be easier. Because, come on, I can't lie to your audience. Life is hard sometimes, right? It's hard.
Absolutely.
But, if you can give me something to make my life a little bit easier, I'm going to hold on to it. And so Clint Arthur and I, we created the Tanya formula. And the T is you got to talk about it. Whatever it is that you're going through, you've got to talk about it, because I didn't talk about any of my losses, my pain, my grief. Even years before Nicole, I did not talk about my pain. I ate through my pain. I ballooned up to 200 pounds. I ate through my pain. I don't want people to end up there. So talk about it. You're not alone. Get in touch with me. Get in touch if it's more severe. I've got a great referral system for therapists. But do whatever you do, you got to start feeling your feelings. And here in today's world, we're discouraged to feel feelings. Go to your room, stop crying. Go to the principal's office, stop crying. Here's a cookie, stop crying. When did that start happening? So what are kids doing? They're holding on to their feelings. They're not letting their feelings be heard, and that's why we're seeing so much duress in the world today. I firmly believe that. And I'm gonna give your audience another T. Is that cool?
I love it. Bring it.
Got to be tech-free throughout the day. You got to choose 10 minutes intermittently all throughout the day to limit your technology use. Before our interview, you and I, we were talking about my meeting with a psychiatrist locally here from the Amen Clinic, Dr. Tucker. He's in Southern California, Dr. Amen is. And I asked Dr. Tucker, I go, Dr. T, why is it that we are seeing so much, your word, mess? Why are we seeing such a mess in this world today? He goes, that's easy. He goes, the brain is stressed. The brain. Not only are people stressed, but the brain is stressed. So how do you unplug? Well, you got to. You were the one that told me you got a flip phone, right?
That's right. I had to unplug, so when I left, I wasn't constantly doing that.
Exactly. So it's just limit your technology. I know people need technology for work, but if you can just take little 5-10 minute breaks, if you work full time, go on your 2 10-minute breaks. Leave your phone at your desk, and go walk around the building. Unplug, decompress your brain. The A, attitude of gratitude. No matter how chaotic your life is, there is always something to be grateful for. Always.
Yes.
Step outside. Look at the Olympics. Are you hearing the story on the Olympics where people have to fight to be on that field? They have to fight their own country to experience that because, the whole South Africa apartheid years ago, the runner who just won the gold, his mom couldn't run because of apartheid. So there is always something to be grateful for, and I get tears in my eyes. We are so blessed to live where we live, and people need to start appreciating that. And then the end, you have to nurture yourself. We give so much to other people all the time, especially myself, because I'm a caregiver at heart. It's I'm not a people pleaser anymore, but I care for people. And it's very critical, especially for the caregivers who are listening. It's very critical that they nurture themselves, just like everybody else. And, when I talk about nurturing yourself, I'm talking about, on the way home, turn on some soft music, lose yourself. Okay. Of course, don't pay attention pay attention on the road. But, this is always a question that I've always asked my coaching clients, what did you used to do when you were a kid and you stopped doing it? And what was that reason that made you stop doing it? Because start doing that again. If you like to paint, what's stopping you? If you like to garden, what's stopping you? Do something that makes your heart smile every single day, because all work, no play makes people a dull boy and girl, right? So we have to do something. You got to say that one
again. That makes your heart smile. Well, wow. Yeah. Ding, ding, ding.
Do something every day that makes your heart smile. It could be something like playing with your cat, going on a walk. My nephew just had a baby this morning. I can't wait to see this little baby, So it's just do something that makes your heart smile. And the why is you. You have to schedule yourself in your day. We schedule, we schedule this interview or this conversation, right? We schedule, play dates for our kids. We schedule meetings all day long. What about ourselves? How come we're always the last one to be put on the schedule? I'm okay with being selfish. I put myself first every single day. I schedule myself every single day, and I come first, and then everybody else. Because if I don't do that, I'm no good to the people I serve.
Exactly.
Otherwise, I'm going to be wound up. I'm going to be irritated. I'm going to be unrested. I'm going to be just, talking negatively, and I'm not going to be present. And when I'm coaching people and when I'm speaking, I want to be 130% present with that person. And the only way I can do that is if I take breaks from technology, I do my deep breathing, and I unplug from society every once in a while. And nothing's wrong with that. And the last A is the attention on the positive. There's always something positive out of your mess. Always. It's just we avoid to feel it. We avoid situations, and we don't take time to really go, wow, what's the lesson to be learned in this? What can I walk away with from going through this divorce or this job transition, or eliminate the why me? Why is this happening to me? Start asking yourself, why not you? Mm-hmm. Why not you be that catalyst for change? Why not you? Because this lesson, whatever it is that you're going through, maybe it's not a lesson, maybe it's just a situation, you're going through it for a reason. I don't know what that reason is. You don't either. But we need to sit still enough to hear that answer, whatever that is. It's just when we avoid and we keep going and we stay busy in our lives, that is just when answers do not come our way, nor are we guided. We just keep plowing through, and change, healing, all of that cannot happen unless you sit in the situation. So that's my Tanya formula. How's that?
I love it. I wish I could pan down to my notes and I would see the highlight, the Tanya formula. That is awesome. And Tanya,
okay.
No, it just makes me smile because you say the things that we talk about on the podcast and the stuff that I really want the listeners to come over. Don't quit, right? You've got to keep going. And something that's so important, and it kept coming up and up every time you spoke, was that there's a lesson to be learned, right? There's a phrase, Tanya, I was reading the other days. I don't lose. I forgot what it goes. I don't always win, but I either lose or learn. Something to that effect, where you're always going to get a lesson out of it. So even if you so-called lose, you got to reach down in there and find it. And that is, you've described the picture you've painted of yourself and what you've gone through with someone that wasn't doing that at all.
Exactly.
And then it becomes wasted time, right?
Yeah.
But nothing's wasted when you're finding lessons. Wow.
Exactly. It's exciting, you know, and believe me, I mean, I'm not sitting on my couch right now having this conversation with you thinking that going through what I went through was easy. God, no.
Absolutely.
I mean, I was in pain, and for anybody who understands depression, it is physical pain, spiritual pain, mental pain, emotional pain. It is like every nerve on your body is exposed and the wind is blowing on it. It is physical pain. But the reason why I share the hardship and the pain, but more so the solutions, so people know that, okay, I have solutions that I can do every day. Maybe even if I tap into just one, I can prevent myself from drinking too much, popping pills, eating too much, maybe even committing domestic violence and hurting people around me. You know, I mean, why do you think that we see so much, you know, these employees who are fired and then they come back and they kill people? Because they don't know how to chill out. They are too consumed with stress and anxiety. And I tell you, everybody who is listening right now, every single person who is listening right now, nobody is immune to addiction or crazy behavior. No one. No one is immune to it. It's just, that's why I'm a huge advocate. It's like, you've got to face your chaos, because it may show up later on in your life. I'm not saying that you're going to go shoot people or do drugs or anything like that or hurt people around you, but it could happen. So why take that risk? And really, the only person who you're hurting is yourself.
Yep.
You know, people have asked me, you know, numerous times, have you forgiven OJ? And I said, absolutely. And they are shocked over the fact that I have forgiven him. And I said, I have forgiven him, I have forgiven myself, and everybody else that has done every bit of harm to me, because if I held on to that, I'd be living with a ball and chain with spikes on it for the past 22 years or 46 years.
No one's
So it's like
strong.
when you're,
Yep.
yeah, no one. And, you know, when you hold on to that, anger turns into resentment. And what is the saying go? How does it go? It's like having resentment is like the other person, giving the other person poison to drink and waiting for, or it's you drinking poison waiting for the other person to die.
Yes. Yep. Spot on. That's right.
You know, so I drink that poison. They're not going to die. Only you are. You know, so it's time for people to really start taking care of themselves, putting themselves first in a very healthy and respectful way, without harming other people. But it's, you know, there's so many things that you can do on your way to work, on your way home from work, time during work, and, you know, even going from room to room, going in from, like I had to do studying for my exam, caring for my dad in the very next room. So you have got to learn the tools in life, because you know what? The way I see the world going, I have a feeling it's only going to decline. I have hope, but I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world today. And, you know, if people can just learn how to breathe and slow down and unplug and, you know, maybe even try some essential oils. I mean, every morning I get ready and I have lavender underneath my nose. I'm breathing in lavender. I have a lot of energy. Can you tell?
That's I love it. I love
Right?
it. And, you know, that's what happens, though. The energy comes from the gratitude and the excitement of life.
Yeah.
And that all came because, as you said earlier, you worked on it. It didn't just show up. It was there. It's within us all. But you want to work on it. So that's
you got to do it. You've got to want it. Life is a choice. It is a choice to be happy. Some people have to work harder at it than others, but you know, William Croyle actually wrote a great book prior to mine. He co-authored it with a girl named Missy Jenkins. Missy Jenkins is, I think, in her 30s now, and she was a victim, actually a survivor, of the first high school shooting in Kentucky that we ever, even before Columbine. And Missy Jenkins wrote a book called I Choose to Be Happy. Now, this is a girl who now, I think she's a mother, she's married, but she's paralyzed from the waist down from the shot, because she got shot. And she went to the prison and went to the boy who shot her and killed her 3 friends and forgave him.
Wow.
And the title of the book is I Choose to Be Happy. So if that girl can choose to be happy, living with the repercussions, yeah. If that girl can choose to be happy, anybody can.
What a great point.
So we all have stuff, Dustin. We all have it.
We do, and you had mentioned, you're speaking of your book and being an author and so much. I wanted everyone to know, because you sort of teased us now, because I know there's people going to want to know, how do I follow Tanya? And not only, I'm going to read it out loud. You can gain access by going to tanyabrown.net, but we're going to have the links on the website, positivespotshow.com, where you can follow this, because Tanya, your website is loaded with information if people want to get in touch with you, if they want to look at, become more familiar with your book, life coaching, all of that is on your website, because there's no doubt you've stimulated a lot of thought and pressed some buttons, which is great, and we need to give people a way to respond. So again, you can follow Tanya, get to know her even better at tanyabrown.net, and the show notes and even more access to Tanya will be at the Positive Spot, or positivespotshow.com, because Tanya, man, we could sit here. I think we could probably do about a 5-hour podcast, because there's so much that needs to be said right now to help people, and then I just wanted to take the time to express my gratitude to you, because if we could paint a picture of the perfect, ideal guest to have on the Positive Spot podcast, especially as we kick off this new show, you're it. Because without knowing, I don't know if you know this, Tanya, you have just about summarized about the first week's episodes, a lot of what we covered. And that just makes me smile, because it shows how important these are. And you're someone that's, I don't use the word master a lot, but you're getting pretty close to it, and that's really good. So,
thanks.
Thank you
much. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. And I just want your listeners to know that you're not alone. I didn't get well by myself, so step outside of the pride box and ask for help, because there are people here to help you.
Step outside the pride box and ask for help. Tanya, thank you so much. And, hey, I'm going to put you on the spot here right now. I'm going to leave the door open and hope that you come and visit us quite often.
Absolutely. If the invitation is there, just give me a jingle. I'd love to.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being a part of this one, and we look forward to speaking with you again on the Positive Spot.
Likewise. You take care.
You as well.
Thank you for listening to this edition of the Positive Spot podcast with Dustin Lawrence. For full coverage of each podcast, visit positivespotshow.com. Please join us Monday through Friday at the Positive Spot. What we think about, we bring about, so why not fill your mind daily with positive thoughts and people at the Positive Spot?